Welcome back to Retro Tech Toys. Today we're taking a look at this Ibook G3 Clamshell. I have been wanting one of these for a long time, and I finally got one on eBay. This has a 300 megahertz CPU. They come stock with 32 or 64 megabytes of RAM and a 4 megabyte ATI Rage AGP card. This thing is pretty cool. It's untested. I got it for 80 bucks on eBay. Let's go ahead and get into it. The keyboard comes off just like the other iBooks. Looking in here, there's a big mess with the clip that's in there, so let's go ahead and get that out. And we're going to take this airport card out, probably see if it's inserted incorrectly and put it back in the right way. So let's go ahead and get this mess undone, and we'll get this thing out. And I want to see what kind of RAM is in this computer, if any. Alright, the airport card just unplugs like so. You're going to need a couple of screws removed to get in here to the RAM. I know using my drill is kind of heavy duty, but that's what I had on hand, so that's what I'm going to use. It's just a couple of screws, and then this plate will lift right out, and just as I suspected, no RAM in here. So let's kind of see what we can dig through. I dug through my stack of RAM and I found some Ibook RAM, and I'm going to pop it in there. It's 256 megabytes. So we're going to go ahead and pop that in there. So that way we've got a nice upgraded Ibook, and the hard drive is relatively small. Typically these came with like 3 gig hard drives. We're just going to leave that in there for now. I don't have any kind of upgrade that I want to put in there, and it's not really necessary. Let's get this airport card back in, installed correctly. All you have to do is plug in the little cable and then angle it in there like so, and pop the keyboard back into place, and you're good to go. Alright, now let's get this battery out. I am positive that this battery doesn't work. These batteries are always dead. I don't even want this in there. That's the battery that this iBook takes, and these are quite expensive. I'm trying to source a new one, or maybe like an old one that miraculously works, but I haven't found one yet. So let's get that out of there, and we're going to go ahead and clean up this laptop. I'm just going to use some isopropyl alcohol and wipe it. It's filthy. I know it's kind of hard to see on camera, but it's really dirty. And I'd like to get this nice and clean before I even use the keyboard or turn it on to see if it works or any of that stuff. There's a little bit of a crack around the acrylic where that screw is, but not really much I can do about that. So let's just get it nice and cleaned up, wiped down, and a lot of this grime is coming right off, so I'm pretty impressed with that. That's going to be a nice looking little iBook when we're done with it. I'm going to flip it over here and just kind of check in these hinges, and I see a little crack on a hinge over here. It's not that big a deal. I'm going to put some super glue on it just to kind of keep it in place. But let's get this thing wiped down first. And it's hard to see on camera, but I get quite a bit of grime here on my rag as I wipe. So, you know, we're definitely getting some dirt off of this thing, and that's good. Alright, we've got it opened up here, and I'm going to spray directly into the rag now and just kind of disinfect this keyboard. The keyboard actually looked really good, so I'm going to just wipe it down and get any kind of bacteria off of it. And just kind of make sure it's nice and clean. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and get the screen nice and wiped down because it was pretty gross. And I'm going to go ahead and also use some lens cleaner on this. I've got some stuff here that's basically lens cleaner. It also works for like electronics and stuff. It's the same stuff. So let's go ahead and spray that down and give it one more wipe to get it nice and clean. And overall, I was actually pretty impressed after I wiped this screen down. It looked really good except for a super minor scratch towards the bottom right. And it's not even noticeable. This hinge here, I want to go ahead and get that fixed up. Really all it needs is a dot of glue, and that'll get it nice and sturdy and stable, and we won't have to worry about that breaking on us. I'm going to let that sit for a minute until it dries, and then we'll flip this thing back over, and let's see if it works. I had to dig out a charger because this did not come with a charger, so thankfully in my parts bin I had one that would fit it. So, whoa, here we go. It's actually working, and it actually has an installation of OS 9.2.1. So I went ahead and went through this off camera, and I installed a game and a couple of other things. So I got Duke Nukem 3D on here, and we'll check that out in a minute. There's the specs for the laptop. Kind of have a look there. You can see our RAM is showing up like it should. And we've got OS 9.2.1. Right now, I think it would be pretty cool to check a few things out that were already pre-installed on this computer. The original owner had a virtual machine installation of Windows XP on there, so let's have a look. Now, I went through and sped this video up because this took forever to boot up. This was probably not the best computer to have an installation of Windows XP, especially a virtualized installation of it. It's not going to run well at all. This ran so slow I didn't mess with it, but I always wanted to see what would show up if you check the system specs, and let me do that really quick. And this is what it looks like when you check out the system specs on a virtual machine installation of Windows XP on an iBook G3. It thinks it's a 686. So there you go. If you were ever curious about that, that's what that looks like. Okay, let's get out of here and let's check out some Duke Nukem. It, of course, runs it beautifully. Shouldn't have a problem. You got that 4 megabytes of onboard video, and you've got, 300 and something megabytes of RAM and this G3 processor. I mean, Duke Nukem runs on a 486, so of course this runs beautifully. But it's always good to test it out just to see, and this is an awesome game. There we have it. It's pretty good for retro gaming. And you can even run an installation of Cubase on here, Cubase 5, which you can use VSTs, which are virtual instruments. That's pretty cool. So, this old Mac, you could technically install some virtual instruments on there and make some music with Cubase. I'm not going to do that right now. I just wanted to show you that you could. So I'm going to go ahead and back out of here, and we'll check out a couple other things here. Overall, I'm pretty impressed with this Ibook G3 clamshell. It's awesome. It works really well for an untested laptop. I really expected much worse. So we didn't need to do very much, and we've got this thing running. Just give it a good cleanup, a RAM upgrade, got that airport card installed correctly, and a few other things sorted out, and we have ourselves a nice G3. Hey, here's AOL 5.0. My network does not show up in this back room, so I can't try to connect to it as if it would even work anyway. But I just wanted to pull it up for the memories. I'm sure that's going to make some of you pretty nostalgic. Let's go ahead and get ready to hop out of this, and we'll do one more thing. We'll see how this keyboard works. I'm curious to see how it feels to type on this machine. As I expected, typing on the machine was very nice. The keyboard's really good. It's a little bit mushy, like, it's not a mechanical keyboard by any means, but it feels pretty good to type on. And, I think I could type for an extended amount of time on this thing with no problems whatsoever. And that basically wraps this whole thing up. And really appreciate you coming along with me while I get this thing restored. We fixed that hinge on the back, we fixed the airport card and the clip inside, upgraded the RAM, played some games, and checked this thing out, and it's a really good, solid working G3. Now, as soon as I can source a battery that isn't ridiculously expensive, I'll definitely do that. But for now, I think we have a pretty good machine, and I'm proud to have it. And thanks for coming along. Thanks for watching Retro Tech Toys. Stay tuned for more. We'll see you next time.